Welcome to Canerica's podcast, The Digital Shift. Today, we are diving deep into, well, frankly, one of the most fundamental choices technology leaders face right now: how you structure your data architecture. It really determines your future agility.
It's absolutely critical, yes. And today, we're aiming to cut straight to the strategic core. We're looking at that big architectural debate, the traditional data warehouse versus the, well, increasingly essential data fabric. Our mission here is really to synthesize what the market's doing, the operational realities, and give you clear, actionable insights. Figure out which approach or maybe combination is right for your business.
Exactly. For you, the listener, trying to navigate this whole landscape, understanding this choice isn't just academic. It directly impacts your costs, your speed, your velocity, and let's be honest, your competitive edge.
And you can see the urgency just by looking at the global projections. The investment here is massive. The traditional data warehouse market, it's projected to climb from about $25 billion this year up to $35 billion by 2030. But then look at the agility side. The data fabric market is expected to hit, $14.5 billion by 2028.
So both are growing fast.
Simultaneously, yes. Which really proves this isn't necessarily about replacing one with the other. It's more about strategic integration.
Okay, let's unpack this. When the numbers are this big, the stakes are clearly high. Let's start by really nailing down the difference. What is a data warehouse versus a data fabric?
Right. Let's define their core identities. The data warehouse, or DW, that's the long-established champion, you could say.
Yeah.
It's designed from the ground up as a centralized repository. It really excels at structure, optimized mainly for reliable structured data. Think tables, rows, columns.
The classic database model.
Pretty much. Its main job is supporting historical reporting, deep dive batch analytics, traditional business intelligence. So if you need to look back, understand sales trends over the last, say, 5 or 10 years, the DW is your go-to system.
Okay. Structured, historical, centralized. Now contrast that with the data fabric, the DF.
Right. The DF is quite different. It's not primarily a centralized store. It's more like an intelligent, unified architectural layer. Its strength is connecting and integrating data dynamically wherever it lives, across complex environments.
Like hybrid cloud, multi-cloud.
Exactly. Hybrid, multi-cloud, even on-premises systems. And here's a key differentiator: data type flexibility. The DF is built to handle structured data, sure, but also the messy stuff: semi-structured, unstructured data.
Like what? Sensor readings? Text?
Sensor readings, text documents, social media feeds, images, you name it. It's really optimized for the present moment, providing dynamic access right where the data sits without necessarily forcing it into one rigid structure first.
So less about moving everything to one place, more about accessing it smartly.
Precisely. If the DW is like the meticulously organized historical archive, requiring data to fit its schema, the DF is more like an agile real-time translator. It gives you that unified view across your entire data landscape, maximizing agility, often without needing to move petabytes of data around constantly.
That brings up a really foundational challenge then, especially for companies modernizing. The data warehouse relies heavily on ETL, right? Extract, transform, load. Can you maybe elaborate on the pain points there? Because that seems like where costs and delays really add up.
That's a crucial point, yeah. And it leads right into the key strategic differentiators. So the traditional DW uses ETL. You extract data from its source system. Then you transform it, sometimes heavily, to make it fit the specific, often rigid schema of the warehouse. And then you load it in, that whole transformation step. Yeah. It's time-consuming, resource-intensive, and it introduces latency, significant latency.
So it's slow and expensive.
It can be, especially at scale. If you're dealing with diverse, high-volume data sources, ETL becomes a major bottleneck. And think about this. Every time a business need changes or you add a new data source, you often have to re-engineer that entire pipeline. That's why data type support is such a big differentiator. If your strategy needs, say, real-time IoT data or social media sentiment, the DW approach forces you into this continuous, costly pre-processing loop. The DF architecture aims to manage that much more natively.
And I suppose the processing differences are just as critical when it comes to speed. Because DWs rely on these batch ETL jobs, getting true real-time insights is often, well, hard, if not impossible. You might be looking at data that's hours, maybe even days old.
Exactly right. The data fabric often bypasses a lot of that heavy ETL process. It uses things like advanced connectivity, data virtualization, to enable access to data closer to the source, often where it currently resides.
Without moving it.
Sometimes, yes, or with minimal movement. This dramatically improves real-time capabilities because it doesn't have to wait for a nightly or weekly batch job to finish transforming everything. It can access it through the fabric almost instantly. This changes the whole integration game. The DW needs data moved and conformed. The DF just needs a secure connection and understanding via metadata.
Okay, but hold on. If the data fabric is all about this decentralized access in place idea, across maybe dozens of different systems, clouds, databases, on-prem, doesn't that create a governance nightmare? I mean, if everything's in one central warehouse, surely it's easier to secure, audit, comply with regulations like GDPR.
That is probably the most common and definitely a valid challenge raised against the fabric model. It speaks directly to enterprise risk. And you're right, if data is scattered everywhere, how do you control it? The answer is the governance model must be centralized, even if the data isn't. This is critical. The DF isn't just about connecting data. It's equally about centralizing the management of that data. Things like metadata management, data lineage tracking, data quality rules.
So the control plane is central even if the data is distributed.
Precisely. The fabric architecture uses that centralized metadata layer as the single source of truth for applying governance rules, security policies, compliance checks consistently across the board. Even though the underlying data might live in 10 different places, this is what enables, for instance, automatically masking sensitive PII across 50 different databases simultaneously through one policy. It lets companies keep that essential security and compliance posture without sacrificing the agility that decentralized access provides.
Right. That clarity on centralized metadata management is really key. And this inherent adaptability, this ability to govern these complex hybrid environments, that's why we're seeing the data fabric become almost mandatory for more advanced applications, which naturally leads us to AI.
Yes, the AI imperative. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what do AI and machine learning models really thrive on? They need, fundamentally, two things that traditional DWs often struggle with: real-time feedback loops, and incredibly diverse data inputs. AI models aren't static. They don't just need historical snapshots. They need to learn and adapt dynamically based on what's happening now.
Like detecting fraud patterns as they emerge.
Exactly. Or consider model drift. That's when a predictive model starts losing accuracy because the real-world data patterns are changing. To combat that, you need fresh, up-to-the-minute data from potentially all relevant sources to retrain or fine-tune the model quickly, the old way, with siloed data updated in batches. It just can't keep up with the demands of sophisticated adaptive AI.
And this is where the data fabric really shines, isn't it? It simplifies that whole data access challenge for AI. By giving that unified access, consistent governance, real-time availability across different platforms, the DF ensures the AI and ML pipelines get all the fuel they need, combining, say, reliable historical sales data from a DW with live operational feeds.
Think about a financial services firm trying to detect really sophisticated fraud in real time. They might need to instantly combine, say, years of transaction history from their core data warehouse with real-time geolocation data from a customer's mobile app and simultaneously cross-reference that against third-party risk intelligence feeds. The data fabric acts as that intelligent layer, seamlessly unifying these very different, heterogeneous data streams, making them all instantly available to the AI model so it can score the risk in milliseconds, not hours. This synthesis, bringing together structure and agility, that's precisely where we at Canerica focus our expertise. We definitely recognize that while the traditional data warehouse still provides crucial structure, for established reporting, executive dashboards, things that need that solid schema-based foundation, it often just can't keep pace with the hybrid real-time world demanded by modern analytics and AI. All right, so our strategic approach really is to help bridge that gap.
Right.
We at Canerica, we're proud to be a Microsoft Solutions partner for data and AI. And we were an early implementer of unified platforms like Microsoft Fabric, which embodies many of these principles. This capability allows us to architect solutions that harness the strengths of both worlds, DW and DF, delivering a robust, unified data platform.
And crucially, underpinning all of this, any successful modern architecture must be built on a foundation of compliance and security. We ensure that all the implementations we design and build follow rigorous global standards, ISO 27801, SOC2, GDPR. The goal is an architecture that's not just fast and agile, but also secure, compliant, and ready to meet regulatory demands wherever your data happens to reside.
Absolutely. And understanding the architecture also means having a sense of the tools involved.
Yeah.
Maybe we should shift to Section 4, give some concrete examples just to ground this for everyone listening.
Good idea. So when we talk about toolkits specifically for data fabric, the emphasis is usually on connectivity, metadata management, and virtualization. These platforms often aim to, leave the data where it is and provide intelligent access. You think of players like Talon Data Fabric or Informatica with its intelligent data fabric. They offer really extensive connectivity options. And then there's Denodo platform, which heavily utilizes data virtualization as its core engine for that distributed access.
Right. And conversely, when you look at the data warehouse toolkits,
Yeah.
especially the modern cloud ones, their optimization is all about massive scalable storage and incredibly high-speed querying of structured, often historical data. These are the giants you hear about: Snowflake, Amazon Redshift, Google BigQuery. Their core strength is performance when analyzing huge volumes of data that's already been consolidated, cleaned, and structured within their environment.
Now, it's easy to get caught up in the vendor hype sometimes and think, okay, data fabric is the future, the data warehouse is dead or dying. But what's the actual operational reality for, say, a large enterprise, a Fortune 500 company that has maybe decades of investment in structured data assets and reporting?
Yeah, that rip and replace narrative is rarely the reality. For the vast majority, maybe 95% of major enterprises, the answer isn't or, it's almost always and. It's about a hybrid strategy. You simply can't or shouldn't discard decades of reliable, structured reporting systems overnight. The smartest approach we see and advocate for is leveraging the data fabric as that overarching integration and governance layer. Let it handle the complexity of connecting distributed sources, managing real-time updates, ensuring consistent policy enforcement across the ecosystem.
Well, keeping the data warehouse for what it does best.
It's exactly. Maintain the data warehouse for its superior capabilities in storing large volumes of structured historical data, for running complex, multi-step financial analytics, for ensuring that core enterprise reporting remains rock solid and reliable. In this model, the data fabric sits, you could say, above or perhaps around the data warehouse. The DW simply becomes one more important data source that the fabric intelligently connects to and manages access for.
That makes a lot of sense strategically. It's about operationalizing both, using each for its strengths, like that retail example. Maybe they use Amazon Redshift as their core DW for reliable quarterly sales reports. And simultaneously, they use a data fabric from someone like Informatica or Talend to seamlessly connect that Redshift data with live inventory feeds from stores, customer interactions from their mobile app, maybe even supplier logistics data from partners, all to enable things like real-time delivery projections or dynamic pricing adjustments.
That's the perfect illustration of the hybrid model in action.
Okay, so to quickly summarize the key takeaways from our deep dive today, remember the core strategic distinction. Data fabric generally equals agility, real-time integration, and governing that distributed multi-cloud access. It's about the ecosystem. While the data warehouse provides structure, reliability, and deep historical analysis, focusing on centralized, structured reporting.
And maybe a final provocative thought for you, based on everything we've covered. Choosing the right data architecture today, whether it's DW, DF, or most likely a hybrid, it doesn't just impact your current reporting capabilities. It fundamentally determines your readiness, your capacity for adopting the next generation of AI. The real long-term strategic challenge and success lies not just in picking the right tools, but in ensuring your chosen architecture can truly scale horizontally and govern transparently across every single piece of data you own, no matter its format or where it happens to live. That's the goal.
That complexity scaling combined with transparent governance, that's exactly the challenge we at Canerica help enterprises navigate. We work with you to move from fragmented data silos towards unified, compliant intelligence without having to compromise on speed or security. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the digital shift. We'll see you next time.